Every room, every drawer had been turned out. It looked as if we'd been burgled, basically.
Having to tell my 87-year-old mother that I'd been arrested, and of course there's no hiding these things, was something, well, probably the worst of it.
I could actually hear them laughing, which was something that it shocked me and angered me.
Early one morning in June 2009, Cleveland police came to arrest James Watson.
Police officers, come to the door!
And to search his home in Middlesbrough. His wife Rita and their 2 sons were held in one room of the house for more than 7 hours.
As a mother, I've devoted my life to ensuring that our 2 sons have a safe and secure home. And Cleveland police violated that on that day.
He was taken to Northallerton police station and held in a cell for nearly 30 hours. He was questioned on suspicion of perverting the course of justice before being released on bail. James Watson is one of the most prominent defence lawyers in the northeast of England. Cleveland police began their investigation into him after his client, Bronson Tyres, was convicted of conspiracy to kidnap, but then acquitted in a retrial. James Watson was suspected of being part of a conspiracy to get witnesses to change their story. He was arrested but never charged with any offence.
The question has to be put, why have they done that? Is this just one individual officer's sour grapes at losing a provincial high-profile criminal trial? Or were there more important, powerful figures in Cleveland who wanted to be rid of me and didn't care how much public money was spent in doing so? I'm afraid all I can do is bounce the question back to you.
The police spent more than 2 years investigating James Watson. The question is, why? It's hard to know for certain. Cleveland police had a habit of not writing things down. They were supposed to be taking notes during the investigation of the decisions they made and the rationale behind them, yet they failed to do so. There isn't even a recording of their interview with James Watson. According to the police, all 6 tapes and all 6 backup tapes failed to record. Newsnight has seen an independent Police Complaints Commission report, which was written by a senior officer at West Yorkshire Police, and is highly critical of the way Cleveland police investigated James Watson. It's scathing about the conduct of senior investigating officer Chief Inspector Tony Reardon. It says that he behaved as if he was hell-bent on cornering his quarry, and it says that his attention had become focused unhealthily on James Watson, and this had the effect of clouding his judgment. Chief Inspector Reardon came to the Old Bailey to apply for warrants to search James Watson's property. According to the IPCC, much of the evidence he presented to the judge was unsubstantiated. The judge was left with the impression that there were reasonable grounds to suspect James Watson of money laundering, but this wasn't true. Events here at the Old Bailey could well explain why the Chief Constable of Cleveland Police cannot defend her officers against the claim that these warrants were maliciously procured.
The shenanigans at the Old Bailey, appalling as they may be to an outsider coming in and looking at them for the first time, is the sort of behaviour that Cleveland police have been up to in small things and in big for the bulk of my professional career. Chief Inspector Reardon had seized 26 boxes from James Watson. They included highly sensitive documents which were covered by legal privilege. The investigating team hoped to find incriminating evidence. Instead, the Crown Prosecution Service said that the documents exonerated him. Despite this, Cleveland police kept hold of the files for several more months and continued to treat James Watson as a suspect.
There were times when I would worry and think, well, you know, how far are they prepared to push things here, even though I knew there was nothing there. When you're against people who were prepared to go to the lengths that they went to, you know, I think they wanted to ruin us, basically.
Newsnight put to Anthony Reardon the criticisms made by the IPCC and James and Rita Watson. He told us,
I strongly refute any allegation that I acted with anything other than professionalism and integrity in connection with the arrest of Mr. Watson. I have made a formal complaint about the conduct of the investigation carried out by West Yorkshire Police on behalf of the IPCC, and as that complaint is ongoing, it is inappropriate for me to comment any further. He added, I personally had no desire to target or ruin Mr. Watson and strongly refute any suggestion that I had. I simply followed what was a complex evidential trail and presented my findings to the CPS.
As for the IPCC's comments about evidence at the Old Bailey being unsubstantiated, Mr. Reardon says he was reliant on the expertise of others. It has taken James Watson 4 years to clear his name, for the Chief Constable of Cleveland Police to admit that there were no reasonable grounds to suspect him of any offence. The Chief Constable has also agreed to correct police records to ensure that no vestige of suspicion remains against James Watson, his family or his colleagues. Cleveland Police have agreed to pay more than £500,000 in damages, including £80,000 in exemplary damages. They admit to falsely imprisoning James Watson and his family, to trespass and to wrongful interference with his belongings. They also cannot defend claims that the search warrants were maliciously procured, or that officers' behaviour amounted to misfeasance, that there was an abuse of power.
The sum offered and accepted in respect of exemplary damages in this case was at the absolute maximum. There is no higher award of exemplary damages that a court could make. And so that is the clearest recognition on the Chief Constable's part that the conduct of her officers was utterly indefensible.
The IPCC recommended that Cleveland Police consider suspending Chief Inspector Reardon. Instead, he was retired on a full pension. The man responsible for that decision was Assistant Chief Constable Sean White, who was on the police sailing team with Reardon. The IPCC has said that the decision not to suspend him sent out completely the wrong message. It was a time to be seen to be doing the right thing.
What certainly sticks in my throat is that millions of pounds have been wasted of taxpayers' money at a time of supposed austerity, when public services are closing down hand over fist in Middlesbrough. Millions of pounds wasted and not one police officer held to account.
The Chief Constable of Cleveland Police, Jackie Cheer, has issued a statement.
Assistant Chief Constable White considered the suspension in accordance with the policy and practices of the force and based solely upon the information and evidence presented to him by the investigation team. Assistant Chief Constable White decided that the conditions to justify suspension were not met.
For the last few years, Cleveland Police has been at the centre of a separate, wide-ranging corruption inquiry. The Chief Constable and Deputy Chief Constable have been sacked for gross misconduct. The head of finance suspended. James Watson hopes that his case will lead to a change of culture at Cleveland Police, which now has a new Chief Constable, but he's not confident that his reputation will ever recover.
The best I can hope for is to be regarded as having a checkered and controversial reputation. You can't come through a scandal like this and expect absolutely everyone to believe that you've been vindicated. Some will say no smoke without fire. Some will say that this is a testament to how good my lawyers were rather than how honest I was. But the value of the payout is important. It reflects the fact that something must be done to reform Cleveland Police. It cannot be allowed to stagger on for another 20 years in the way that it has for the last 20 years.